Redistricting Subcommittee for Saturday, June 25th. The meeting is called to order at 9:02. We will do a quick roll call. Connie Graves.
Here.
Nick Mazza.
Here.
Adrian Kissy.
Present.
Kashana Owens Cody.
Here.
Larry Malden. Not here yet. Donna Bullock. Not here yet. Naseem Ramdani.
Here.
Good morning, Naseem.
Morning.
And we also have Jeffrey Weiss,
Present.
Marissa Pardino,
Here.
Sam Mather,
Here.
Pretty Mather,
Present.
and Dr. Lisa Hanley.
I'm here.
So, Dr. Hanley, the next thing we would normally do is our minutes, but we'll table that until following your discussion.
Okay. So you probably got what looked like a very complicated table from me. And I thought that I better explain it to you. And that's why I'm here this morning.
Do you all have that? Marie, did you circulate the chart?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Do we have it, Marie? I don't think we have it.
Is that the chart that we created or is another chart?
It's another chart.
I don't think I sent it to y'all. Sorry. Wait, hold on 1 second. I'll do it right now.
Can you share it?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm also going to share it on the screen when we talk, but she'll email it to you. But before I shared it on the screen, I wanted to explain why I'm here and why this is a little more complicated than it ordinarily is. The assessment I'm about to give you is based solely on the predicted effectiveness of the districts. And by effectiveness, I mean how likely they are to elect Black preferred candidates. In fact, it's more specific than that. I'm looking only at election results, and more specific than that, predicted election results in the districts that you've been drawing. I'm not taking into account any other redistricting principles. For example, I'm not looking at compactness. I'm not looking at communities of interest. I'm not even looking at the demographic composition of the districts. I'm only looking at how I think the minority preferred candidate will do in these districts. Now, ordinarily, looking at recompiled election results is pretty straightforward because you look for elections that are polarized, in which you know the white candidates preferred one, the white voters preferred one candidate, and the Black voters preferred another candidate. And you can simply see if the Black preferred candidates would win in the newly configured districts using these recompiled election results. But it's not so easy in this one. And the reason that it's not so easy is, first of all, we didn't have any countywide polarized elections that included minority candidates. The one countywide election that we had was not, in fact, polarized. So we had to use statewide elections. But more complicated than that, the minority preferred candidate in these two statewide elections didn't necessarily carry the current districts we know are effective. And that's why you're seeing me again, because I've developed a way to sort of, I think, summarize what I think about the effectiveness of these districts. So what I'm going to do now, if I can share my screen, is to bring up the table I prepared and tell you what this table tells me. Can I share my screen? I
I'm
can.
given permission. You should have it now.
First, let me bring up what I want to look at. Okay, is that working?
Yes.
Very good. All right. The first table you should recognize because this comes from the ArcBridge summary report. I got these election results from, it's an ArcBridge folder I think that you all have, and it just tells you how, here are the current districts, here are the candidates in the Attorney General's race, Maloney, James, Eve, and Teachout. And here are the candidates in the Lieutenant Governor's race. I always say her name wrong. Jeff
Hochul.
and Williams.
Oh, cool, right.
Yeah. I've just added percentages because I want to deal with percentages rather than total votes. And shading is also from the report. So for example, in current District 1, James gets more votes than the other 3 candidates. So James would carry this district. However, Williams does not. Now here I've added 2 columns. This column is the average percentage of the vote. I wanted to average the percentages rather than actually add up the votes because there are a different number of candidates. More importantly, different amount of turnout for these elections. So this average score is simply the average of 33.3 and 53.79. This doesn't tell me what I predict the preferred candidate would get because in one contest I have 4 candidates, and another contest I have 2 candidates. Ordinarily, you could average these and it would tell you if you got over 50% that your preferred candidate would win. I'm averaging only so that I can compare them across different plans and different districts. So this average score should not be seen as a percentage of vote a preferred candidate could get, because in one instance we have 4 candidates and a 39.8% would be enough to win, possibly anyway. So don't take this as what we're predicting the candidate to win, just take it as a gauge comparing this district to other districts. So this is just the average of the Williams vote and the James vote. Okay, and then this down here is the average score so I can compare plans overall. The second thing I did was I just counted the number of wins. So in this district, for example, the minority preferred candidate wins one of the 2 contests. In this district, both contests. This district, none of the contests. But in this district, we know the minority preferred candidate actually won the county council. This is how I created 2 markers. The minority preferred candidate either had to win a contest and get an average of about 0.398, or if they didn't win a contest, get an average score of over 0.413. So those were the 2 gauges that I took and placed on the other elections. Don't have. If I've written strong in the column, that means in the next column, that means that that candidate won both contests, and I am certain that that district will elect. If it has nothing in this column, it means it's at least as good as the current districts. And if it doesn't, if it has weak, it means I'm doubtful. It may elect and it may not. So that's really what I did, is I just used the current districts as a marker and went through and determined how many districts were very likely to elect and that's the strong. How many were likely to elect? You'll see nothing there. And finally, how many I thought may but may not elect, and those are the weak. And in the end, I created a table, and you will see that to me, I would say that Plan B and Plan D, even though they have more districts than the current plan, don't have more effective districts, they actually have less. However, Plan A and Plan C have as many effective districts, plus Plan C has 2 possible districts, may elect or may not. And that's why I recommended to Jeff Plan C as perhaps the best plan in terms of just what I'm looking at, the effectiveness score. Now, you probably have a million questions, but that's how I arrived at that. Where is my, can't remember the plan. Plan A was had 5 districts, and I think they're all likely to elect. Plan B had 7 districts. I think that only 4 are clearly likely to elect. Plan C offered 7 districts, is that right? 7 districts, 5 likely to elect, 2 possible, and then Plan D had 4 likely to elect and 2 possible. And that's out of the 6 districts. That's how I arrived at that.
I
Okay,
think what's
go ahead, Jeff.
significant is that prior to this analysis, and we raised the question that if you were to create 7 minority districts, would that work? We knew that we could draw at least 5, but this analysis demonstrates that Plan C would likely elect the 5, but the stronger possibility of also electing 2 additional, which is why we were agreeing that Plan C, which would create ostensibly 7 minority districts, might be the best, because it actually, reaches that 7 district goal that we didn't know about prior to this analysis.
So, I have a question, just for purposes of clarifying for us. We could not use county legislator elections. Can you explain to us why we could not use those elections?
Yes, because you need to be able to have the election wholly contained within the proposed districts. So you drew county legislative districts that crossed district boundaries. So you didn't have election results for some of the area that's in the proposed district. It would only work if you had a countywide election. And again, I said it couldn't be countywide because the only countywide election that you had that included a Black candidate was not polarized. But you're drawing, so if you have a district, but you're drawing it differently, I can't use an election that's just in that district because it won't tell me what's happening over here.
Okay. That seems pretty clear. So the implications of this data that you just discussed with us as it relates to the county legislature elections going forward, are there implications that we should take away from this?
Yes, and that is that some of these districts, some of these plans that offer 7 districts, like Plan B, are not as good as other plans that offer 7 districts, like Plan C. And again, this is based only on an effectiveness analysis of how the Black preferred candidate might do. Again, I'm not saying anything. I haven't even looked at the district boundaries. I don't know the demographic composition of the districts. I don't know if they're compact. I don't know what they do about communities of interest. All I'm saying is, in terms of looking at predicted election results, I think that plans B and D suggest to me that they don't have as many effective districts as the current plan and plans A and C. Plus, Plan C offers 2 maybe districts. Plan B offers 3 maybe districts, and only 4 are likely to elect. What I'm doing is I'm comparing, I'm adding this and this together. So here's a 7 district plan, 4 which look very likely to elect, and 3 which are possible. Here's a 7 district plan in which I've got 5 districts that are likely to elect and 2 that are possible. These districts are ranked based on how the minority preferred candidates did in the current plans, because I had to recognize the fact that the minority preferred candidates won these council districts, but the elections that I was using, the candidates did not necessarily win the election. In fact, only in 1 district did they win both elections.
So, Lisa, I have a question for you. So when you look at the current results, you see 2 Black candidates, and one is Eve and the other one is James, right?
Right, but Eve is not the Black preferred candidate. We're actually not interested in how Black candidates as a group do. We're only looking at contests that include Black candidates so that we know that Black voters had an option to vote for Black candidates. So we could have used this election, and if Maloney had been the candidate of choice of Black voters, we would be looking at Maloney despite the fact that James and Eve are Black. It's not about Black candidates, it's about Black voters choosing Black candidates, or having the option to choose and choosing a different candidate. So again, we're not just looking at how Black candidates do. We have to do a racial Black voting analysis and make sure that we're looking at candidates that Black voters support.
But when you have 2 Black candidates or 2 white candidates, the votes get divided. So if, say for example, if Eve was not there, then James would have got more. And when we looked at this analysis and we totaled all the total of Black votes and the total of the white candidates had more in each case. The total votes for the whites.
You don't do it that way again. You don't look at white voters versus Black voters.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so what you're saying is just the preferred candidate.
That's right.
Okay.
It's not about the race of the candidate,
Okay.
It's about the race of the voters, but you have to look at contests that include Black candidates so they have the option. Sometimes you don't have that, like if you would look at the presidential election, I suppose you could say that Harris was Black candidate, but basically you're looking at Biden and Trump. But if you don't have enough, you could still use that election if you didn't have any election that didn't have Black candidates. But we do have 2 elections that have Black candidates. And again, we're interested in the Democratic primary in Albany because the general elections aren't polarized. It's the primary that you want to get the Black preferred candidate to win in, because they'll win in the general. Albany, and particularly the city of Albany, where I think all of these districts are at least centered, if not wholly located, are in very democratic areas. Again, let me explain how I decided if a district was likely to elect versus weak. They had to have at least one win, or they had to have an average of over 4.413. So I used these as our markers.
Okay, I thought you had said earlier that it was the minority candidate won and had an average over 0.398. If they did not win, then they had an average of 0.413 or better.
That's right.
Okay. Okay.
And if they didn't meet one of those two criteria, I marked them as weak, as the
Weak,
district
correct.
as weak.
So, we had a couple of more recent maps that were public submissions that possibly may be stronger than our maps. Is it possible for you to look at those two maps?
I would need recompiled election results from Arkbridge. But yes, I mean, it would take 2 minutes. I mean, it's pretty simple to do.
Oh, okay.
So the recompiled election results would be needed. Why?
That's how I determine, that's how I've ranked these. So I look at how each of these districts would do with regard to these two contests. So you'd have to see how these candidates would do in the proposed districts. I need to ask, I'm not sure how Arkbridge did the recompiled election results. Do you now have it at the block level so that as you're drawing, you automatically get a total?
Yeah, we do have it at the block level, so.
So any proposed plan, this is very quick to turn around recompiled election results for these two contests.
So now that we have put all the formulas and everything to calculate at the block level, it will be pretty quick to look at another plan and we come up with these numbers.
Well, does it automatically show on the screen?
We will have to create.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that quick, but we'll have to run the plan. We'll have to create those results and compile them and then put them into this format that you have here. So it's going to take a little bit, but it will not be as much as it took the first time when we had to go and do all the calculations and get the results at the block level.
So to be realistic, how much time would it take Arkbridge in terms of days from today? And Lisa, what is your availability once that's done, just so that this subcommittee can have a sense of what to expect and when related to decision making?
So the two maps that Marie is referring to, we'll have to look at those two maps. First of all, to see if they meet all the conditions. And then, let's say
there might be 3. There's 2 7-district maps. One that was submitted by Lars, one that was submitted by Gwen Pope, and there's a 6-district map that was recently submitted by Lars.
Okay, so 3 maps. So with the analysis and everything. So we have our next meeting on Wednesday. right, Preeti? So we'll try and get the results by that meeting.
Well, the results by that meeting day, then we have to get the your product to Lisa. And what is your availability next week? And I believe traveling.
I remember I'm in Louisiana for a
Right.
congressional redistricting case until
Mhm.
Thursday. I could certainly, do it on Friday for your Saturday meeting. If I had the election results, we could certainly do it by Friday. I mean, I guess you meet on Saturday, so I would do it on Friday and give you the results on Saturday.
So we can share the results with you on Wednesday before the meeting, if that works for you.
I'm not even going to be here. I'm going to be in Louisiana doing testimony in the court. So the soonest I would look at it would be
Friday.
Thursday afternoon or Friday.
Okay.
But you don't need to. You can get it to me before then, but I won't be looking at it until Friday.
Okay.
So, does that make sense to everybody else?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes.
And might I suggest at this point, since we have basically some concrete mapping to work with, that's very positive. If we get 3 more map analyses done, I would suggest that, given the time frame, you consider shutting the door, to more maps coming in. Although maps could change again after this all goes to the commission or to the county legislature, but at least for the purposes of MMD subcommittee drafting, decide whether to work with these maps so that more maps don't come in a week later when we just won't have time.
okay.
Marie, one clarification from you, that the 3 maps that you are talking about, should we just take them as they are, or should we try to modify them, or just take them as they are?
Yeah, I would suggest just looking at them as they are.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything else for Dr. Hanley? Questions, comments?
We will get, I'm assuming next Saturday, a list of, or basically she will tell us what she thinks might be the best outcome after all this analysis.
Well, we'll have the addition of the
3.
maps that we're requesting be looked
Right.
at.
And
And I'm just looking at, we are given a recommendation, or, what might, as she said today, might be the best possible for measuring effectiveness. And so we've got something to go forward on, we hire professionals to give us professional advice, and I'm looking for that.
And Lisa, you're available next Saturday morning at 9?
I am. Again, this is just looking at whether the plan would meet the VRA. This
Right.
does not look at any other criteria. You're going to have to, you yourselves, the policymakers, have to measure these out in your mind, although you certainly don't want to pick a plan that violates the Voting Rights Act, and that's, Jeff will make sure that you don't.
Right. In terms of population equality and Voting Rights Act compliance, which are the 2 primary factors, compactness, contiguity, communities of interest should be factored in, but federal law will pretty much dictate what's required. State law comes somewhat secondary, so to speak.
Okay.
But also, I think from what we've seen so far, Plan C or Plan A perhaps comport best with what Judge Kahn was talking about in the spirit of his decision. And also Plan C accommodates the requests to have seven effective minority districts, which has always been the hope for goal. Now we see that it could actually be a reality.
Well, that's good.
That's what we didn't know prior to this analysis, because the more districts you create, the more the numbers go down, become less effective. But the proof is in the pudding of this report. Good.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hanley. Do you have anything else for us?
I do not, but I will be back next Saturday morning with some additional plans for you to think about in
Thank
terms
you.
of effectiveness.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Have a great day.
You too.
Safe
Bye.
travels.
Thank you.
Safe travel.
Thank you, Dr. Hanley.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Bye.
Thank you.
So one thing I'll suggest to Marie is that, next Saturday, you'll probably have the three new plans. And I guess soon after, or very soon, you will come up to a point when you have to make a decision which plan to go forward with. So this is one of the criteria. So you want to think collectively of what other criteria are you going to look at to make the final selection, or is this the major criteria or the only criteria that you look?
No, well, I mean, we know we have the other criteria relative to compactness, relative to communities of interest, relative to contiguousness, relative to not crossing municipal lines and boundaries, which is I guess a lower criteria depending on what else it satisfies. And I'm sure there's some other stuff that I'm leaving out, but I mean, we know that there's other.
Partisanship.
Say that again, Jeff?
The other criteria is partisanship and not splitting municipalities unnecessarily. But those aren't before us here. We're not dealing with those issues.
Yeah, I think the communities of interest is really important. So and municipalities, of course. So.
But keep in mind also that if just speaking without being specific, hypothetically, if you decide to prefer going with keeping a community of interest together instead of creating what could be an effective minority district, then you could be running afoul of federal law and state law, because federal law requires compliance with the Voting Rights Act, and state law requires that minority communities be given priority over communities of interest. Let me just ask a question, Sam, or anybody. I don't have the map C in front of me. Do you think that map C is non-compact or non-contiguous, or specifically breaks up a community of interest?
Let Preeti answer that.
Yeah.
Can
Plan
we put,
C.
can we put up
Plan
plan?
Oh, can we put up Plan C?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, I can share now. I did. All right, so did I share the right one? I did not, so bear with me for a minute. I got the wrong one.
So, so pretty, when you're looking at the maps and you have like one of the criteria as neighborhood associations,
Yes.
are you able to tell if there's a situation where we split a neighborhood association? Because there was a comment that in, I think it was Plan D, that we split a neighborhood association.
Marie, what happens is we cannot keep all the neighborhoods together. Some of them will be split. So, but if there is a comment, then we can go back and look at it and see if there is another way to put it together. But yeah, some neighborhoods are split in almost all the maps. So,
Marie, was that comment related to the Delaware Avenue
Yeah, I don't know.
neighborhood of such? I remember Delaware Avenue being a comment at one point.
Yeah.
I didn't have any specifics, and I was just wondering if it's something that's easily identifiable so we could see where it's at.
okay, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yes.
good. So these were all the maps that we had received and we had processed. And here we go. Let's go to Plan C. This is Plan A, B, and C. Okay, this is B, and C is here.
So what are the problems with map C? Looking at it, the only compactness question I have is why I think District 6 extends westerly. That's might be for population reasons, but that's just one compactness thing that sticks out. Or why I don't see the numbers 3, 2 and 3 are shaped the way they are, or like I'm just asking general questions here, like 2, 3, and 7. Like what's going on here is the question.
Okay. It is because the reason being, when we go into Manans, which we did in this plan, and then to be able to make the District 7 MMD, at least see here, if you look at it, to bring it up to 40%, we had to take some part from here because that is where the populations are. And so it's primarily working with the percentages.
Okay. And what will be the pushback in Manans for splitting it for what looks like three districts, if I'm correct?
What is that? Say
Well,
that again.
does Manans follow that sort of brownish reddish line?
Yeah, that is Manans.
Okay, so what kind of pushback could be expected for putting Manans into at least more than one district? I don't know what's to the north of it or to the west of it, but it would be split.
Okay, what we did was we looked at the population, and these areas are primarily non-Hispanic white. So if we include them, then we do not get the percentages that we are looking for. So Manans would technically be maybe in 3 districts or 2 districts, but we don't look at that. We are just looking at our own districts.
Now, is Manans a village or a town or an unquote
Village.
It's
Village.
a village.
And does Manans by itself make up at least 40% of a single district, population-wise?
That I would have.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it was one of the places that was defined by AppGeo. I believe it was.
Because if Manans by itself makes up 40% or more of an ideal single district, it could be split. So the next question is, from the residents in Manans, would they object to this, or to what extent?
Well, we already had opposition to it at the beginning. We had people that gave feedback.
But that
Yeah.
was, yeah, that was where we just had a small sliver going into Manans. Now I think it's a much more considerable portion of Manans. But again, the ability to create more minority districts that are effective, given the level of polarized voting, comports with federal standards as well as state standards, where the municipality split is the lowest criteria.
Yeah, and that's what that's what I was referring to earlier. But I know with this Plan C, I know that we still had some issues relative to the voting age population and the closeness of non-Hispanic white to the non-Hispanic Black percentages.
Yeah, see, if you look at District 1, the non-Hispanic white population is 33%, whereas non-Hispanic Black population is 39. Now, the other question for Jeff is, see here we have non-Hispanic Black is in majority, or plurality rather, but if we add the Hispanic, then we are solid over 50%.
Well, we
So
don't-
the question is, do we just look at non-Hispanic Black, or we also look at the Hispanic population that at one point we were talking about adding the Hispanics and the non-Hispanic Blacks to kind of justify that it's an
But
MMD.
it isn't the numbers, it's the effectiveness. And what the Hanley report shows is that these districts, you look at the numbers here, are most likely to elect in 5 of them, and and possible to elect in 2 of them, and no other plans comes closest. So it isn't adding population as much as these. I mean, you could add Hispanic and Black together, but what we're finding is that the plan, as we're looking at it now, provides the opportunity for 5 districts and possibly 2 more districts, and that's the best of all the possibilities so far. The downside is a lesser concern of splitting Manans. And I think
there's that, and I think in the voting age population numbers do matter, because in the Black community, the voter turnout is a lot less.
right. Well, I think
I understand, the analysis of effectiveness.
if you could do stronger numbers, Black and Hispanic, I think for optics it looks good, but for effectiveness it might not make a difference.
Well, I think it makes a difference, because part of what the finding of the court was that in districts where there's Blacks and Hispanics, Blacks are more likely to win. So
Right? No, I'm saying I agree. Joining them together is no problem if you can do it. I mean, the stronger the numbers, always the better, and the stronger the effectiveness, the better.
One more thing, Jeff, I think she's not including the Hispanic numbers in the effectiveness analysis, from what I understand.
Because she said, the last time we met, that the Hispanic vote wasn't sizable enough to gauge.
See, in the MMD districts, current districts, the Hispanic population in many places.
Can't hear you. Sam?
Yeah, so in many of the current districts, the Hispanic population is either 10% or close to it in the current MMDs. So I think it is quite significant. In some cases, there are even 15, right? 15%.
Dr. Weiss, Professor Weiss, I think, are you saying that numbers do not always equate to effectiveness?
I believe so. That's what
Okay,
Dr. Hanley has told us,
gotcha.
that no, 50% is a majority, 50% plus is the majority, but 48% might win.
Right.
So you always need 50%.
I have a question, and that question is, when you look at all the factors in selecting a plan, how do we rank the effectiveness? Do we say that's the number one criteria, or is it one of the criteria?
Well, it's the major criteria that takes all the others together.
I think voting age population
Effectiveness.
is also a very important criteria to at least have the population there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the population numbers add up to what becomes effective. But
Well-
Because turnout is not taken into consideration here, right?
it's the results.
Yeah.
We can't hypothesize.
That is why, my thing is, how effective is our effective analysis if we do not have turnout numbers? All we are looking at is voting results.
But the turnout might not change in the future either. That might depend on who the candidates are, what the situation is. In this year, this summer, not because of the candidates, but because of the timing, we expect very low turnout in the current primary that ends on Tuesday. And then the August primary might even be lower, not because people don't care about the candidates. It's just that they have other things to deal with.
Plus the type of election. So if it is like the presidential election, you would probably have more turnout. I don't know. I'm just posing these questions.
Right now, it's, I mean, the congressional and Senate election primary in August in some areas might be a very pitch decisive, primary. Other parts of the state, probably not. I'm going to, guess in downtown Albany, the congressman and the senator isn't going to change. So there might be very low turnout. And I don't even know if they have primaries.
Yeah, generally in the primaries, the turnout is low anyways.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you've got what, Congressman Tonko and is it Pat Fahey in the assembly? I forget who your assembly member is.
It's split.
Yeah, but they probably don't have primaries. Or I meant not Fahey. I meant Neil Breslin.
I think what we should do is we should rank each of these plans that we have, giving them some kind of weightage on each of the factors to be able to make a better judgment of which is the best one. And we could include all the factors like compactness and neighborhoods and the WAP and the effectiveness analysis and everything.
But what's going to
help?
That could be useful, but what will really matter is, are the population numbers, and that really is not as much a concern. Is to create the effective minority district opportunities. And so far, just speaking objectively, Plan C would demonstrate to the outside world that it works best. So it would probably, least or for the least liability to the county, because this goes beyond the 5 districts and actually could increase the opportunity for 2 additional districts. And that's just what Judge Khan was talking about. And if those 7 districts can include the Black population as well as the Hispanic population to the numbers possible, all the better. And then if you think that C could be tweaked, or the other 2 plans, 3 plans rather, that have come in, could be drawn another better way, I would suggest that.
So how would you rank splitting the communities versus the effectiveness? Because right off the bat, I know that one of the plans that Lars has submitted, he is going into Manans just like our Plan C is, and he's also getting a piece of Colony. Now, I'm not sure if it was advertently or inadvertently, but he's grabbing a piece of Colony and in one of his plans that we are going to.
What kind of population in Colony does he add?
barely 400-500 people. So I
What-
was not
what-
sure why he went there.
Is it a white, black, Hispanic population in Colony?
Predominantly white.
Predominantly
Um,
white, and I think it's more that he was just trying to get the numbers.
Yeah, but if the numbers don't need Colony added to it, splitting Colony is just another possibly unnecessary issue to
Yeah,
mess
yeah,
things
Well,
up.
I mean, there are pockets of
Pockets.
minorities in Colony. So, I mean, if he's going into Colony and the majority of what he's getting is non-Hispanic white without a significant number of blacks and Hispanics, then that probably would not be a good thing.
Right.
But I mean,
And
I
I
think it,
we don't know what those numbers are.
my recollection without looking at the map is that he needed that piece to connect it,
Connected to Manans.
to connect keep the district from being in one piece. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that piece was basically a connector.
Connected.
I might be off, but I haven't, it's been a while since I looked at it, but maybe not, but it seemed to me that, or maybe he was just looking to get to the 8,000.
Yeah, I would suggest, since it's a low priority in the criteria, but as few jurisdictional splits that you can do outside of the city of Albany would be the better. And just not unnecessarily split Colony just because of numbers. And also, even there, I have to look at the map, but if you're adding just the minority part of of Colony, we want to avoid just cherry picking communities by race and race alone. If the racial voting analysis report indicates that you can elect the minority candidate without that area, you don't want to start going overboard either. And I think what we're looking at so far is that map C is affording, even if it's at a low end of the threshold or possibilities, the likelihood of electing 7 minority preferred candidates, which is 2 more than the current plan, which responds to all the public comment and splits fewer communities outside of the city of Albany. And I think once this goes to the county, we'll get any kind of feedback on whether splitting Manans, is how significant that is. Should the county legislature have a problem with it?
If that map,
Oh, I mean, we're not there yet because
Right,
I
down
mean,
the road.
we're still gonna look at these 3 other plans, so
Right.
I don't think we're there yet.
So,
I think if you guys would like to see the map, I can share it.
Is this what map is this?
It's the large
The large.
district map.
Okay.
That would be good.
So here, Manans ends here. And he's grabbing this piece of Colony in District 3.
and that's to round out the population along the Hudson River.
I can just see what the population is. I can probably find out. So we are getting 128 non-Hispanic Blacks and 237 non-Hispanic whites.
25 Hispanics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is to reach the population necessary, right?
Not sure. Let's see. 3. District 3 is just 20 over. So maybe he didn't have the city boundaries on when he was doing that. I mean, once again, I'm saying, I'm just pointing it out. I'm not sure if he had the municipal boundaries on, or, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I would just suggest splitting as few communities, towns, villages, even hamlets outside of the city of Albany as least possible.
There could be, Preeti, can you go back?
Oh, sure.
So, Menands, the west side of Menands, near Colony, that boundary, do you think there is contiguity there? If we split there could be those two little separate block, areas of Menands, which we haven't taken, which he has not included. Will that be non-contiguous by any
No.
chance?
Yeah, put the map back up. Where are you? Move the cursor to where you think there might be a contiguity problem.
That's okay, that's
No,
okay.
no, there is no contiguity.
There's no, I was not.
And we can very easily not use this area.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we'll be a little short, but then we'll just get from somewhere else.
I mean, there aren't two roads that go along is that railroad tracks? It's hard to make out.
I'm just thinking, what if we give these away back to District 14? Let's see how our District 3 would be. It would still, it would fall short of 385 people, which would have to come from somewhere down here or somewhere else. So that's just something that I wanted to point out in terms of how we are going to prioritize our selection process.
Well, just keep it in mind as a rule of thumb to use the state criteria.
But if we were to go with this map, then we'll have to make some minor adjustments. to it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, whichever map Dr. Handley's analysis says is.
And that's
most
population
effective.
deviation.
Yeah, whichever is most effective, then, we'll see if we have to make any tweaks to make it work better. But if we do tweaks.
Yeah.
then
I mean,
we
again,
go
the
back
top,
to
the top
analysis.
two goals are, I mean, the top two criteria are low population deviation and compliance with the Voting Rights Act. Then we want to look at compactness and then contiguity. And then we have the other factors on communities of interest, partisanship, not splitting localities, less than 40% of a district by themselves.
Now, when you talk about
So
participation,
when you say yeah, that's what I was.
yeah, I have never heard of
Oh,
that.
yeah,
as a
that's not
valid basis.
not to favor or disfavor parties or candidates. But here I don't see, at least not in this part of Albany County.
So we don't even bring in the partisan data. So
Right.
that very fact is that we are neutral to it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It really isn't a factor that we're needing to consider in the city of Albany.
Okay, so could you repeat those again, please?
Well, the
Professor White?
criteria, what I'd like to do, if I could just, I want to read them to you exactly as they appear in state law. So just give me 1 second and I'm going to pull up the law.
And I would say contiguity is one of the top criteria, because if
Yeah,
your
I'm
district
gonna
is
get-
not contiguous, it's not good.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to them in a second. Okay, so the criteria include that such districts shall be as nearly unequal in population as is practicable within an overall difference of 5%. That's the first criteria. The second is that districts shall not be drawn with the intent or result of denying or abridging the equal opportunity of racial or language minority groups to participate in the political process. The third criteria is that districts shall consist of contiguous territory. The next one is that districts shall be in compact form as practicable. Then we have one more paragraph that has several all combined, that districts shall not be drawn to discourage competition or for the purpose of favoring or disfavoring incumbents or other particular candidates or political parties. Then it says the maintenance of cores of existing districts, of pre-existing political subdivisions, including cities, villages, and towns, and of communities of interest shall also be considered, not mandated, but considered. And then to the extent practicable, no villages, cities, or towns, except those having more than 40% of a full district, shall be divided. So those are the criteria in their priority ranked order as I just gave them to you.
You said accept those having more than 40%?
Right. So if
Yeah.
you are, let's say, a village or a town that makes up 40% or less of the full population of a single district, then the state law suggests you not split that village or town. If the village or town by itself makes up more than 40% of an average district, then you can split it. And this was basically included in the law to avoid slicing and dicing small areas, to keep them together, not to use them as leftovers to make up population equality elsewhere.
So the areas that it suggested cannot be split are those that are 40% or less?
Or more. I'm sorry, that cannot be split or 40% or less. Yes.
Jeff, I just find it interesting that they put contiguity as number 3, because contiguity is pretty important.
Well, these were not scientifically vetted before the law was enacted. This was a law that a legislator from Westchester County put together about 20 years ago, and it was fine-tuned last year. But there were several chefs in the kitchen when it was put together. And at one point, I was advising the drafter, the sponsor of the legislation. And even though I wanted to add more language to be more specific, they told me the train left the station, no more changes. So we're left with what we see.
That's fine.
Okay. So this was a good discussion. If there's no more discussion on this area, then we can move on. Does anybody have anything? Okay, so everybody got the minutes of our last meeting on June 18th. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at them. If there are no comments or questions, I will entertain a motion that we accept them.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and second that the minutes of June 18th be accepted. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The motion has passed. Okay, so then we have legal and mapping, and we just had a lot of discussion, but Do y'all have anything else that we didn't discuss?
Not for mapping.
Looks like Jeff left. Okay, public hearing is on Thursday at 5 o'clock. I will not be physically in attendance. I will be virtually in attendance. There was some discussion about just doing introductory remarks. So that needs to be like further flushed out. So I will get back to y'all because, I mean, is there anybody else that will not be physically at the public hearing? Okay, Connie, you won't be there? Anyone else?
Me either.
Kashana, Donna, and Larry, are y'all planning to be in attendance?
Yes.
Yes, are we not gonna send anyone over to the market, over to the South End Market? Because they asked me the other day, will we be there this Thursday? And I told them, yes, I thought so, because I had forgot we were having a hearing. So I guess they were gonna have a table for us, so,
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to pass.
okay.
I
Do you
mean,
want me to email Eva? Or
yeah, the
email-
only sorry, Kashana, the only possibility is if the hearing is over early enough, since the
Yeah.
South Night Market goes to 8 o'clock. There might be a possibility to still shoot over there.
Okay,
Well, I mean, if, excuse me, if we have the maps and we end early, I'd be willing to go over with someone.
Okay,
yeah, if it ends early, I'll go over with you, because I was at the last one.
Okay,
I'll go over with you.
okay, sounds good.
and I gave the easels back to Nicole yesterday because they needed them for an event that they have Monday morning. So we would just have to get the easels back, so.
Okay.
Community engagement. Kashana or Donna, do y'all have anything on community engagement?
No updates on places. There's a lot of events today. So if you're out and about and if anybody has flyers, I couldn't get into, there's two Hispanic events that I could not get into to be at today. Both Centro Civico and Capital District Latinos have events today. But I found a website that has a bunch of events, so I'm just gonna try to pull as many as I can. But we have the South End Night Market. Marie, I did get a response from Jackie, so I'm gonna call her back actually related to North Albany to see if we can still get in North Albany Post. So that was high priority before. Not sure if if there's anywhere in Manans we want to go into, especially if we're considering parts or plan C, like we may want to look at doing something in Manans, but I guess I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are, but I know we were pushing for North Albany, but should we push into Manans as well, especially if we're looking at plan C? Because I can start
Yeah.
exploring Manans too.
Yeah, you could look to see if there's places. So with the Capital District Latinos and Centro Civico, when you say you couldn't get into those events,
I found out about them late. And then when I emailed the organizers, it was too late to get in.
okay.
Where are those events taking place today?
Yeah, one is at Capital District Latinos on Central. They're having a wellness fair, and I want to say it's the grand opening of their culturally appropriate food pantry. They just opened a food pantry. And then Centro Civico has an event. I want to they stop and start like they're complementing each other because you can go to one event and then go to the other one. They're both, I want to say, on Central Avenue, but I can send you if you want the information, I can send you all the
Yes.
flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be good. And also the community survey, Kashana looked at the community survey the other day, and very few people have filled them out, but the people that have filled them out had given some pretty good input. We thought, so we still need to try to push getting people to fill out the survey. It really doesn't take that long to fill it out. We had a few people that filled it out for us while we were at Juneteenth. And, you know, I asked them for feedback afterwards, and they said it was very easy to fill out and didn't take long. So we still need to promote and push the survey. I don't think there's anything else there. Does anybody else have anything? So I think the only thing that we have left is the talking about the report. Jeff, I had sent you an email. Did you see my email about the report?
You know what day you sent it? I'll take a quick look. Let me just take a look
It
here.
probably
If I
was
bring it up.
Thursday or Wednesday. It basically just said, I think it was part of the email that I sent out. I sent a rough draft of an introduction and also something. I sent something else and I just put an email in there.
Oh, I have, no, I have the draft introduction you sent me on June 20th. Is that it?
That might be it. It had an attachment and I wrote an email and I just said,
Right, MMD,
That's it.
okay. Oh, I did, yeah, I did take a look. Yeah, I did look. I meant to ask you, would you like me to suggest edits and just put it in a Word document back to you?
yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, so let me do that. And when would you like that by? Just to give me a rough deadline outline.
As soon as possible,
Okay,
like in a couple of days or something. I mean, we have to really
yeah,
focus
a couple
on
of days is doable.
pulling together the report. Donna is going to do a summary of local law 8. And then you're going to
Yeah,
do,
I could,
go ahead, Jeff. I couldn't hear you.
no, okay, I'm just pulling this up again. Yeah, what I was doing on Marissa and I, what we were doing, just trying to open it, yours again, is to, well, for the overall report that the commission is doing, I'm not sure if it would fall under the MMD or the full commission, is to do a review of the Pope case and what's required of the Voting Rights Act. So it'll appear
That's what I
in
was
one.
suggesting should be part of our report, a review of the
Yeah,
Pope
okay, yeah,
a review of
yeah,
the Voting
that's
Rights
being,
Act Section 2 and any
yeah,
other
that's,
legal court-related information that would be relevant.
okay. Yeah, I will get back your part of it. I have my part of it in sections. I've just got to, just edit together. So I should be able to get that done the next few days. So what I'll do is send you one comprehensive document that's yours edited and mine included.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay, okay.
And Pretty and Sam, we need to schedule a time to do a phone call so we could just talk about the mapping part of the report.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so y'all could call me or email me what works for y'all.
Okay. sounds good.
Donna,
Yes.
you were gonna say something?
Oh, no, just that when Professor Weiss, when he sends you his document, just forward it to me, please.
Okay. I'll forward it to everybody.
I will send out the revised outline that we had revised last Saturday. I sit here at my laptop and I just hit print. And when I went back in, and I had printed a number of things, and when I went back, I found that I was out of ink. So I had to go back and review the video of the meeting to get the items that we had added last week. So I will be sending that out to you today, the revised outline.
Donna, it's also in SharePoint as well. So if you want to go into SharePoint and edit it there.
Okay.
I think I added some of the stuff that in the SharePoint that you had added as well, but I don't know if I caught all of it.
Okay. Well, I did go back, and like I said, I had to review the video from the meeting last week. So I think I caught everything that needs to be added to the outline. So.
And on SharePoint, it's in a folder called report.
Okay. SharePoint.
So I will continue to work on different sections of the report. Pashana, I'm looking again at what you had sent. I'm probably going to make some edits to it. And I'll send that back to you so you can look at it before I share it with everybody else.
Oh, yeah, I had a question, Kashana, about what you sent.
The community stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I had all this stuff that I had to reprint. So, yeah, I'm not sure how you wanted us to use this. Well, the community engagement work plan. Are we supposed to be using, I mean, this will help us in terms of our events that we held, but is that just for reference?
Yeah, it was a reference because I was
Okay,
trying to,
okay,
I knew that I heard a lot of you say, well, we don't know where we're going to get that info. So I was like, oh, let me at least provide them with reference documents.
Okay, got you. All right, I'm good.
Donna, anything else on the report you want to talk about?
No, I'm beginning to put things together. I have what you've submitted. I have, Shauna, what you've submitted. I started working on the events that I attended. So yeah, anybody else who is also writing up their events, that you attended, please do that as soon as possible.
Okay, and Connie, you have your piece, right?
Yes, I'm about in the middle of it.
All right. Sounds good, sounds good. How are you doing, Naseem?
I'm good, Marie. How are you?
Good. Did you
I'm
get,
looking, huh?
go ahead.
I was looking for an email from you for any assignments past week.
Okay. Did you get a chance to look at the Facebook ad?
I didn't. I thought Adriana had spoken with you about that. I thought she was more familiar with it, but I could take a look. I guess I didn't actually.
All right. Are you around later? I'll call you later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have anything else before we close? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Well, I move that we adjourn. Nobody wanted to say it.
I second.
Okay, it has been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay, Pretty and Sam, I will talk to you in a few minutes.
All right,
Okay,
bye-bye.
thank you.
Okay. Have a good day,
Else,
everybody.
have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
All right.